he want to send to the world leaders today?
Well, thanks for having me. This is a really big moment, not only for Japan, but also I think for the G7 itself. Prime Minister Kishida has been working on the agenda, traveling to Europe and here in North America to Canada and the United States in early 2023 to talk to his partners in the G7 about the agenda for this meeting. Obviously, as your piece pointed out, the top of the agenda is going to be Ukraine and the conflict in Europe, but so too is China. The Indo-Pacific countries are concerned that the same kind of aggression that you saw the Russians undertake last year could be possible in the Indo-Pacific, and specifically that China's ambitions in Taiwan could also bring that kind of conflict to their region. I think the Prime Minister of Japan has also been very focused on the global economy. G7, after all, is a gathering of advanced industrial economies. So he'll be looking at the impact of the conflict on what we call sometimes the global South, but on countries outside of Europe and Asia. Things like food security, energy security, and of course the broader volatility of the global economy. So there's a lot on the table here for Japan and for the G7 nations.
Now, of course, that's some of the world's most advanced democracies now touching on climate, energy, the global international order in question. And with the two nations likely to be at the center of the conversations, and they weren't even invited, I was wondering if we could talk about the two elephants that aren't going to be in the room.
So you're talking about Russia and China, of course, right? And so I think a lot of the European states are looking not only at their specific conflict at the moment and the sanctions that the G7 have imposed on Russia, but they're also beginning at the urging of both Japan and the United States to consider what their economic ties with China. In Beijing and Moscow, of course, they'll be looking at this G7 very carefully. They'll be looking to see if there's any cracks in the fissures of the coalition that the US and Japan and the Europeans are trying to put together. It's not just the G7 countries, but the leaders of Brazil and India and other global institutions are going to be there. So they're going to want to see just how successful Japan and the United States might be in building a more robust coalition that extends beyond the G7. But yes, expect President Putin and President Xi to have their eye on what comes out of this meeting in Tokyo.
Well, I imagine also for Japan, this is especially important because of their close geographical neighbors being Russia and China, and with continued threats and continued escalation in that region, it doesn't bode well for them. Can you talk to me also about some of the defense issues that Japan has stemming from the treaties that the U.S. Forced them into following World War II?
Absolutely. So the bilateral treaty that we have, the United States has with Japan, was, as you noted, part of the peace treaty alongside the peace treaty in 1952. But it was renegotiated in 1960 at the request of the Japanese. So it's very much a treaty that the Japanese decision makers, politicians, and the bureaucracy rely on for their security. What's been really interesting, though, Giacomo, is in the last year or so, Prime Minister Kishida, who's not seen as the most hawkish of prime ministers in Japan, but he's led a strategic review that has produced one of the most forward-leaning military plans for Japan, a new national defense plan in which he is going to try to push the defense spending or security-related spending to the level of 2% of Japanese GDP, which would be on par with our European allies. Japan, as you know, is the third largest economy in the world, so 2% of its GDP is no small amount of spending. It's in the realm of $300 and something billion over 5 years. So this is an accelerated military buildup by the Japanese because, exactly as you noted, China is offshore to the west. Russia is to the north, and we shouldn't forget North Korea and its testing of ballistic missiles and nuclear ambitions that are also to the northwest of Japan. I think it's also important to understand that Prime Minister Kishida wants to build this diplomatic coalition, not just rely on its own defense measures or the treaty with the United States, but to also persuade the rest of the world that China is a real challenge to not only Japanese security, but to the security of China's neighbors in the Indo-Pacific. Both in the maritime realm and across land boundaries, many of the Asia-Pacific countries are worried about China's own military buildup and its willingness to assert its interest through the use of those maritime and air forces.
My understanding is that Prime Minister Kishida is expected to announce these 3 key points, perhaps, likely to be part of the conversation. Can we dive a little deeper into what are those? Why are they important?
Sure. There's 3 focal points, I think, and one of them we've talked about already, which is Ukraine. This is the spring offensive. This is the moment where we don't want, or at least the G7 leaders don't want to see any slippage on the global messaging on the Ukrainian conflict. The other, of course, is this broader question. You mentioned climate change, but these larger sort of existential threats that you see people worried about across the globe, the consequences of global warming, but also we shouldn't forget the nuclear peace. And of course, Prime Minister Kishida is going to be very interested in getting the G7 leaders to continue to focus on the idea that nuclear weapons cannot be used, cannot be allowed to be used again. And as you know, President Putin of Russia has threatened escalation to the nuclear level in the European conflict. But Hiroshima is Prime Minister Kishida's hometown. It is, of course, the site of the atomic bombings in World War II. So it is an appropriate place for the Prime Minister to remind the world that we have to act to prevent the use of nuclear weapons. And then last but not least, of course, is China. The language on China is going to be interesting to watch. The actual product that could come out of this. I know there's a little bit of focus on questions of Chinese economic coercion, the way that Beijing uses its economic weight to force its partners into geopolitical compromises that they may not otherwise be willing to make. So economic coercion is a language I think the US and Japan will bring into the conversation at the G7, but we'll have to wait and see whether the Europeans and others embrace that direct approach to China.
All right, Sheila A. Smith with the Council on Foreign Relations, breaking down the very latest of this busy and very much going to be in the focus, especially a lot of eyes of the world on the G7 summit. Thanks so much, Sheila.
Great to be with you. Thank you for having me.